This video will give you a short introduction on how to create a power map. It's a model that comes from community organizing, in which people would figure out quickly how to get a lay of the land in terms of who they could count on, who they still needed to work with, to convince, and who they may just not know where they stood. It gives you a really good way to kind of kick off any project that you're going to be doing. We're going to go through four basic steps here. First is identifying your problem of practice and placing it in the center of your map, brainstorming the stakeholders, color coding those stakeholders, and then making connections amongst them to your problem of practice. Altogether, that gives you a good, quick visual of where your community and you stand in terms of this issue. So the first step is pretty simple. It's defining your problem of practice simply, and then placing it in the center of the page that you're going to be working with. Now, if you're working on your own, you may just do this on a single piece of paper, or you may do it on larger chart paper. If you're doing this with a group, which can be even more effective, then you're going to want to do it perhaps on a whiteboard. If you're in real life, do it on a real whiteboard, or a whiteboard in Zoom if you're doing it virtually, or at least on flip charts, so you have plenty of space to write. So you can see this looks like a fairly open space here, but as you'll see in a minute, we're going to fill this up. So the first thing that we're going to do here is brainstorm all the stakeholders who are involved with your problem practice. Now, we throw the word stakeholder around a lot, okay? But think who actually has a stake in the issue that you're examining, right? Who has a role in it? Who has who has an interest in the outcome? Who might participate in making it happen? Who might be more passively involved, but they're going to be affected by it? So as you're doing it, you're going to throw up as many people as you can think of. Um, you're going to put them up if you know their actual names. Great. Maybe they have a particular role in relation to this thing, or it's a group that's related to it. Okay. Um, once you get your full map, you can see this is where we're starting to really fill it out. The most effective maps are the most specific maps. Okay. So if you can get names, tremendous. Okay. If you can only really identify a group, or um, people who have a particular role, an institutional role, let's say the director of X, Y, or Z, then, place them there as best you can. So here's where the power mapping gets really pretty interesting. Now that we've identified the different folks who have a role or a stake in this problem of practice or in this issue, now we're going to try to figure out where do they stand on the issue. And so we're going to color code with three colors. Green, the folks who you're pretty sure agree with you are already on this. They're going to be uh, working with you in a positive way in the resolution of the issue. Red, some people think of as those who might resist. I prefer to think of those as people I still need to convince, right? I think it's a more positive outlook there. And then blue are the folks who definitely have a role here, but I don't really know where they stand. And so we're going to identify them and we're going to code them with your assumptions about where they are. So the green folks are the people I know I can count on. The red folks are the ones I still need to win over. And blue folks I still need to win over too. I just don't know where they stand at this point on the issue. So now that my map reflects people's positions with respect to resolving the issue, they agree with me, I need to win them over, or I just don't know. Now the next thing I want to know strategically is how strong are my relationships with them? And so we now start attaching them again with color-coded lines, but we attach them back to the problem of practice with lines that indicate the strength. So if it's a solid line, I have a I as the organizer here, or you as your group who are filling out this power map, we have a strong relationship to that person or that entity. A dashed lines means we have a moderately strong relationship to them, and a dotted line is going to indicate the weakest connection. And so we're going to go through and we're going to make our lines. You're probably going to start with the strongest ones, regardless of where they stand. These are the people who you figure you know the best, okay, or you have the closest relationship to. Dashed lines, again, you have a moderate relationship to. And then with the dots, okay, you have the weaker relationship too. Now, interestingly, this gives you a pretty decent lay of the land, as we said initially, right? You can strategize with a map like this, right? You kind of know where people stand and you kind of know how close you are to them. And that can get you really moving on your strategy. Okay. As mentioned earlier, power mapping is something you certainly can do on your own, and it's quite powerful and useful. It's most powerful and most useful when you have your team together who are going to be working on this issue and you can do this together. Okay. So, what you're going to see in this next video is several sets of students from an undergraduate course here at Fairleigh Dickinson on the school to prison pipeline. And they had each identified a different project that they wanted to undertake to try to make a change here at FDU with respect to that. So you'll see in the existing video, excuse me, in the still here. In this still, they've identified Unity Days on the Metro campus as their project. And they brainstormed a whole mess of people, organizations, individuals, uh, people in particular roles. I see dean of students there, and then I see Greek life, for example, is the distinction between somebody in a role and then a whole group, right? You can also see on the right-hand side that after their first pass, they got a whole lot more specific, and they identified a whole list of individuals whom they could work with. You see they've color coded based on where they stand, support, convince, or question mark, and you can also see that they've drawn their lines back to the issue to indicate how strong their relationships are. So, just a brief video to give you a sense of what this can look like with the group. Really short, but I hope that it gives you a good sense of what this project could be. So that's it. A brief introduction to power mapping coming from a community organizer point of view. Again, if you recall, we talked in a different context about the Dorothy Cotton Institute. This was another technique that I learned there, and I hope it's useful to you in pursuit of your problem of practice.